She believed she was about to wed a disabled tycoon, but what unfolded at the ceremony shocked her. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in creating more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The late afternoon rain drifted over downtown Chicago, drawing silver streaks across the windows of the Crescent Oak Hotel, a place where polished marble floors, soft amber lights, and quiet classical music created the illusion that the outside world did not exist. Inside the lobby, guests moved with practiced confidence, their designer coats and shining shoes reflecting the luxury that surrounded them. Yet at the far end of the room, a young woman stepped in hesitantly, her breath unsteady from the cold wind that had chased her all the way from the bus stop. Her name was Lily Hartman, a waitress from the North Side with a heart too hopeful for the life she had been dealt. She pressed a hand against her damp coat while her eyes searched the crowded space. She had been told someone would meet her here, someone who had promised her a future she could not begin to imagine. Her fingers tightened around the small purse she carried, the same purse she brought to every shift she worked at the cafe where tips hardly covered groceries. She had never been inside a place like this, and her steps felt too loud, as if her very presence was an interruption. The elevator chimed, and from its polished interior emerged the man she was meant to marry. Adrian Steele, the reclusive billionaire tycoon whose name drifted through business news like a rumor wrapped in power. He sat in a sleek black wheelchair, wearing a tailored charcoal suit that fit him flawlessly. The silver lining of the suit reflected the overhead lights, and his posture carried a quiet, immovable authority. His dark hair was touched with a few strands of gray at the temples, and his sharp eyes scanned the lobby with the focus of someone who had spent years commanding boardrooms and bending markets to his will. Adrian moved toward her with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. "Miss Hartman," he said, his voice low, steady, and free of emotion. "Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss." Lily swallowed, unsure how to address a man whose wealth could buy entire city blocks. "Yes, Mr. Steele. I came as soon as I received your message." He nodded slightly and gestured for her to follow him toward a quiet private lounge. As the door closed behind them, the sounds of the hotel faded, leaving only the muted hum of the air vents and the faint ticking of a distant clock. Adrian opened a leather folder on the table, revealing crisp documents that looked far more intimidating than any contract she had ever seen. "This," he said, tapping the top page, "is a marriage agreement. It outlines our arrangement and the terms required for both parties. You will not be required to share a living space with me. You will attend 6 public events as my spouse. You will maintain discretion at all times. In return, your debts will be cleared, your mother's medical treatment will be fully paid, and you will receive monthly financial support." Lily felt her pulse hammer in her ears. She had known the offer was unusual, but she had not expected it to be this overwhelming. "But why me?" she whispered. "You could choose anyone." Adrian's expression remained unreadable. "I chose you because you have integrity. Because you did not ask for anything when you believed I was nothing more than a disabled stranger lost outside your cafe 2 weeks ago. You helped me without hesitation. That is what I require. Someone who will not use me. Someone who will not betray me." Her throat tightened. She remembered that rainy evening vividly. A man in a wheelchair struggling with a fallen stack of papers near the cafe door. She had rushed to help him, not knowing who he was. She had smiled at him, offered him warmth, and continued her shift without ever imagining that moment would follow her into this room. Adrian slid a pen toward her. "You will think carefully before you sign. This arrangement benefits us both. But understand one thing clearly. This is not a marriage of affection. It is a strategic alliance, nothing more." Lily stared at the pen, feeling the weight of every hardship that had pushed her to this moment. Her mother's fragile health, the mounting bills, the exhaustion that clung to her like a second skin. And across the table sat a man who seemed carved from stone, offering her salvation wrapped in cold terms and legal ink. Outside, thunder rolled through the city, echoing softly through the lounge. And so began the marriage that was never meant to be real. The rain had slowed by the time Lily stepped back out onto the street, but the world felt heavier than before. The envelope containing the marriage agreement was tucked against her chest, sealed but burning with the gravity of the choice inside it. She walked toward the bus stop in a daze, barely noticing the passing headlights or the wet gusts of wind that pushed against her coat. Her mind repeated the same question again and again. How had her life led her to this moment? By the time she reached her small apartment on the north side, the hallways were already dim, and the flickering ceiling light cast uneven shadows along the walls. She unlocked her door quietly, hoping not to wake her mother. The apartment smelled faintly of the lavender spray her mother loved, mixed with the sterile scent of medical supplies. A monitor beeped softly from the bedroom, steady but fragile. Lily set the envelope down on the kitchen table and walked inside. Her mother lay propped up against pillows, her breathing thin but calm. When she saw Lily, her lips curved into a tired but genuine smile. "You are home early," she whispered. Lily forced a smile of her own. The cafe was slow tonight. Her mother's eyes softened with concern. "You look worried. Is everything all right?" Lily hesitated. She wanted to tell her everything. She wanted to confess about the envelope sitting only a few feet away, the proposal that could save them both, and the billionaire whose life seemed to exist in a world far above hers. But the words stayed inside her. She could not bring her mother into this storm. Not yet. Instead, she sat at the edge of the bed and held her mother's hand. The frailty of that hand reminded her of every bill she had struggled to pay, every shift she had taken despite exhaustion, every tear she had wiped away quietly at night. She knew that the hospital would call again soon. They always did. "I will take care of everything," Lily said softly. "I promise." Her mother closed her eyes in relief, unaware of the cost tied to that promise. Later, after helping her mother fall asleep, Lily sat alone at the kitchen table. The envelope sat in front of her like a silent witness. She opened it and spread the papers across the table. The legal terms were cold, the obligations were demanding, the restrictions were suffocating. But the compensation was life-changing, fully funded treatment for her mother, a clean slate, a chance at survival. The clock on the wall ticked steadily as she read each page again and again. Her heart pounded with anxiety, but also with something she could not name. It was not fear. It was not excitement. It was the realization that this choice would redefine her life in ways she could not predict. By dawn, she had made her decision. The next morning, Lily walked into the towering glass headquarters of Steele Industries. People in tailored suits moved swiftly through the lobby, carrying tablets and folders with the confidence of those who belonged to this world. Lily felt every worn stitch of her coat, every frayed edge of her purse, every sign that she did not belong here. The receptionist looked up, eyes softening when she saw Lily's nervous posture. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," Lily answered quietly. "Lily Hartman, Mr. Steele is expecting me." The receptionist checked the schedule and nodded. "Top floor, executive office." Lily stepped into the elevator. As it began its ascent, her reflection stared back at her from the mirrored walls. She looked small, uncertain, but determined. She reminded herself of why she came. Her mother's face lingered in her mind, fragile and precious. This was not about luxury or escaping her life. This was about survival, and survival often demanded choices that defied reason. The elevator doors opened to a quiet hallway lined with black and white photographs of city skylines. A woman in a fitted blazer approached her. "Miss Hartman? Mr. Steele is ready for you." She guided Lily into the office. Adrian Steele sat behind a massive desk of dark wood, the morning light casting sharp lines across his face. His wheelchair was positioned precisely, his posture straight, his hands resting calmly on the armrests. He looked up when she entered, and for the first time, There was a flicker of something almost human in his eyes. "You came," he said. Lily nodded slowly and held out the folder. "I read everything carefully." "And?" Adrian asked, studying her quietly. "I will sign," she said. "I accept your terms." Adrian's expression did not change, but the subtle shift in his shoulders suggested relief he did not want her to notice. He opened the folder, reviewed the documents, and slid a pen across the desk. Lily signed each page with steady hands, sealing her fate with strokes of ink. When she finished, Adrian added his signature beside hers. The sound of his pen against the paper echoed softly in the large, quiet room, marking the beginning of a partnership neither of them truly understood. Adrian closed the folder with meticulous precision. "Welcome to our arrangement, Miss Hartman," he said. "The ceremony will be held this evening. It will be brief, private, and strictly procedural." Lily exhaled, feeling a shift inside her, like the first tremor before an earthquake. She had married her future to a stranger, and the lie was no longer a plan. It was now her reality. The hours between Lily's signature on the contract and the scheduled ceremony passed in a blur. She returned to her small apartment one last time, packing only a few essentials. Her mother was asleep when she left, unaware that her daughter's life had already been rewritten with ink and obligation. Lily paused at the doorway, letting her eyes linger on the quiet room, the soft rise and fall of her mother's breath, and the fragile peace that would now be protected by a marriage that did not belong to the heart. A black car waited outside the apartment building. The driver stepped out, greeted her politely, and opened the door. Inside the car, resting neatly on the seat, was a white garment bag and a handwritten note in Adrian's unmistakably precise script. "Wear this. Arrive at the courthouse by 7. The gown inside was elegant but simple, a soft ivory dress that flowed like water when she lifted it from the bag. It did not sparkle or demand attention. It was the kind of dress chosen by someone who wanted formality without warmth, beauty without sentiment. The courthouse lights glowed against the deepening dusk when Lily arrived. The air carried the faint scent of rain-soaked concrete. She stepped inside with careful breaths, steadying herself as she walked down the empty hallway. There were no flowers, no guests, no music, only a clerk preparing documents, a judge reviewing files, and Adrian Steele waiting beside his wheelchair with the stoic calm he wore like armor. He looked at her for a long moment. His expression remained unreadable, but something shifted in his eyes, something subtle, something she could not name. "You look appropriate," he said. It was not a compliment, but it was the closest he seemed capable of offering. Lily took her place beside him. The judge read the vows with a tone that suggested he had performed dozens of these ceremonies, none of them remarkable. The words drifted through the room, formal and distant. "Do you, Adrian Steele, take this woman, Lily Hartman, to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Adrian replied, his voice steady and controlled. "And do you, Lily Hartman, take this man, Adrian Steele, to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Her heartbeat quickened, but her voice did not tremble. "I do." The judge signed the certificate and handed it to the clerk. The ceremony was finished in less than 10 minutes, just as Adrian had promised. It was not a celebration. It was a transaction. Adrian extended his hand toward her. "Congratulations, Mrs. Steele. From this moment forward, our marriage is legally binding. We will maintain separate living quarters, uphold the conditions of the contract, and present ourselves as a unified pair at required events. Discretion is expected." Lily placed her hand in his. His palm was cool, steady, and confident, the hand of a man accustomed to making deals and keeping them. But just as she thought the ceremony would end without incident, something unexpected happened. When the clerk wheeled over a final set of documents for Adrian to review, the pen he held slipped from his hand. Lily instinctively bent down to pick it up, and in that moment, she saw something that froze her breath. For the briefest second, Adrian's right leg moved. Not a twitch, not a reflex, a deliberate, controlled shift. Her mind raced. She stared at him, but his face remained perfectly composed, as if daring her to question what she saw. He took the pen back calmly, signing the last page with a steady hand. "Let us proceed," he said, as if nothing had happened. But Lily knew what she had witnessed was real. The man she had just married was not as disabled as he claimed, and the first crack in his carefully constructed lie had finally appeared. The ride from the courthouse to the Steele estate felt longer than it truly was. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by quiet residential streets and long stretches of road lined with shadowed trees. Lily sat in the back seat beside Adrian, who remained composed and silent, his hands resting neatly on the armrests of his wheelchair. The flicker of passing streetlights illuminated his face in cold, steady intervals, revealing nothing of what he felt or what he hid. Lily kept replaying the moment she had witnessed in the courthouse, the controlled movement of his leg, the calm denial in his expression, the silence he used as a shield. She wanted to ask him, to confront him, to demand the truth about the lie that hung between them. But the contract was clear. She was not permitted to question his personal matters, and Adrian Steele was a man who used boundaries as weapons. The car turned through wrought iron gates and followed a stone driveway that wound through manicured gardens. The mansion emerged from the darkness, glowing with soft exterior lights that highlighted white stone columns and tall arched windows. It did not look like a home. It looked like a monument built by someone who did not know how to rest. When the car stopped, the driver stepped out and opened Lily's door. Adrian maneuvered his wheelchair smoothly, but Lily's eyes caught every subtle shift in his posture, every controlled motion of his shoulders and hands. She noticed how effortlessly he guided himself down the ramp. There was nothing weak about him, nothing hesitant, only a precision that seemed almost too perfect. "Welcome to the Steele estate," Adrian said as they approached the entrance. "This will be your residence for the duration of our agreement. Your room has been prepared." A housekeeper, dressed in a simple uniform, opened the large double doors. The foyer smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. Portraits lined the walls, each depicting stern-faced individuals from generations of the Steele family. Their eyes seemed to follow Lily as she stepped inside. Adrian gestured to the staircase. "Your suite is on the second floor. Mine is down the hall on the east wing. We will maintain separate spaces unless required by public appearances." Lily nodded, her voice caught somewhere behind her thoughts. Of course. A quiet moment lingered between them, heavy with unspoken questions and truths held under lock and key. "You should rest," Adrian said. "There will be many adjustments in the coming days." She wanted to walk away, but curiosity pushed her toward the edge of caution. "Mr. Steele," she said carefully, "earlier today, at the courthouse." His gaze snapped toward her, sharp and cold. "If you intend to ask what I believe you are about to ask, I advise you to remember the terms you signed." His voice was calm, but the warning beneath it was unmistakable. Lily lowered her eyes, her heart pounding. "I understand. Good." Adrian turned his wheelchair slightly, the motion precise and deliberate. "Our arrangement only works if boundaries are respected." He left her standing in the foyer, the echo of his wheels fading down the hall. A housekeeper guided Lily upstairs, opening the door to a spacious suite with soft lighting, a large bed, and a window overlooking the gardens. The room was beautiful, but it felt foreign, as if it belonged to a stranger she would never truly know. When the housekeeper left, Lily set her small bag on the chair and walked to the window. The rain had begun again, tapping softly against the glass. She looked out across the estate, her thoughts swirling with doubt and discovery. She had married a billionaire who hid pieces of himself behind a flawless facade. A man who claimed to be broken, yet moved with the strength of someone who refused to be seen as vulnerable. A man who had offered her salvation, but wrapped it in secrets. Lily pressed her hand against the cold window. She was beginning to realize something important. In this marriage built on deception, she was not the only one trapped by necessity, and Adrian Steele was hiding far more than his ability to stand. Lily slept only in short, restless intervals that night. Each time she closed her eyes, the image of Adrian's controlled leg movement flickered in her mind, like a warning she could not decipher. When the morning light finally broke through the curtains, soft and pale, she had barely convinced herself it was real. Perhaps it had been her imagination. Perhaps exhaustion had distorted what she saw. Or perhaps Adrian Steele was a man who lived behind a wall of lies even thicker than his wealth. A knock sounded on her door. When she opened it, a housekeeper stood holding a neatly pressed outfit, a soft champagne-colored dress and a pair of modest heels. "Mr. Steele asked that you wear this today," the woman said. "Today?" Lily asked softly. "For the luncheon at the Horizon Foundation. It is your first appearance as Mrs. Steele." The words settled heavily on her. She thanked the housekeeper and began getting ready. The dress fit her perfectly, as if measured without her knowing. She wondered how many decisions about her life Adrian had made without her consent, and how many more would follow. Downstairs, Adrian waited in the foyer, dressed in a tailored suit, his posture impeccable in his wheelchair. His expression was calm, but his eyes assessed her with a quiet intensity. "You look appropriate for the occasion," he said. Again, not a compliment, but an evaluation. Lily nodded. "What exactly is this luncheon?" "It is an annual event for donors and board members of the Horizon Foundation," Adrian replied. "We are expected to appear unified and composed. You will remain by my side. You will speak only when necessary, and you will ignore anything you hear that is designed to provoke you." "Designed to provoke me?" she echoed. Adrian's jaw tightened. "My family will be present." That was explanation enough. The car ride to the Foundation headquarters was silent. When they entered the large ballroom, conversations paused. Heads turned. Cameras lifted. Lily felt the weight of 100, evaluating eyes settle on her all at once. She understood immediately that she was being judged not just as Adrian's wife, but as an outsider in a world that tolerated no imperfections. A woman stepped toward them, tall, elegant, and cold enough to chill the air. She wore diamonds that sparkled under the chandeliers and carried a glass of champagne as if it were an extension of her authority. "Adrian," the woman said sharply, "you could have warned us you were bringing a guest." Adrian's expression did not flinch. "This is my wife, Lily Hartman." The woman's eyes widened for only a second, then narrowed with disdain. "Your wife? I had heard rumors, but I assumed even you would have better judgment." Lily opened her mouth to respond, but Adrian spoke first. "Be careful, Victoria." Victoria smirked. "I am simply surprised. She looks as if she wandered in from the service entrance." A soft ripple of quiet laughter spread among the nearby guests. Lily's chest tightened, but she steadied her voice. "I did come from a place where people work very hard. Perhaps that is why I value what truly matters." Victoria froze, caught off guard by the graceful reply. Adrian's eyes flicked briefly toward Lily, and for the first time, a shadow of respect crossed his expression. The rest of the event unfolded with similar subtle battles. Every introduction carried a coded test. Every conversation hid an unspoken challenge, but Lily remained composed, speaking with sincerity when necessary and silence when appropriate. She did not try to impress them. She simply stood her ground. When they finally returned to the car, Adrian studied her quietly. "You handled yourself better than expected." Lily looked out the window at the passing streets. "People like your family do not frighten me." A faint, almost imperceptible shift touched Adrian's face. Not a smile, but something close to understanding. "You are stronger than you look," he said. For the first time since agreeing to the marriage, Lily wondered if Adrian Steele had underestimated her, and if this arrangement was about to change in ways neither of them anticipated. The next few days passed with an uneasy rhythm. Lily settled into the Steele estate, learning its quiet hallways and polished surfaces, the echo of her footsteps becoming a strange companion in the vastness of the house. She tried to keep her distance from Adrian, following the rules laid out in the contract, but she could not shake the feeling that there was far more hidden beneath his rigid control than the cold language of their agreement suggested. The luncheon with his family replayed in her mind often, the disdain in Victoria's voice. The way people watched Adrian, not with compassion, but with a calculation that bordered on hunger. She noticed how little they respected him, despite his power. The wheelchair served as both a symbol of vulnerability and a weapon used against him. It was clear that Adrian's own family saw his disability as a weakness they could exploit. One evening, 4 days after the luncheon, Lily was in her suite, going over the notes she had made from the orientation binder the housekeeper had given her. It outlined her responsibilities for upcoming events, scripted appearances, and statements she might have to memorize. The weight of this new life pressed heavily on her, but she reminded herself of why she had agreed to it. Every sacrifice had a purpose. A knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found Adrian's assistant, a sharply dressed woman named Karen whose composure rivaled that of her employer. "Mrs. Steele," Karen said. "Mr. Steele would like to see you in his private study." Lily felt a slight tension rise in her chest. Did he say what he needed? "He said it is important." Karen hesitated, her voice lowering. "And he said it concerns the family. You should prepare yourself." The estate was quiet as Lily made her way to the study. The room was located on the first floor, its double wooden doors carved with intricate designs. When she stepped inside, Adrian sat behind a large mahogany desk, a stack of documents spread before him. The lamp on his right illuminated sharp angles across his face, highlighting the stress that he worked so hard to conceal. "You wanted to see me?" Lily asked. Adrian looked up slowly. "Close the door." She did. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the heater. Then Adrian spoke. "The Board of Steel Industries is planning a vote. They intend to challenge my position as Chief Executive Officer." Lily's pulse quickened. "Why?" "Because they believe I am not fit to lead," he said, his voice even. "They believe a man in my condition cannot manage an empire of this size. And they believe it is time for a more physically capable figurehead." Lily stepped closer. "They want to remove you." "Yes." Adrian leaned back slightly, his fingers clasping together with controlled restraint. "They see my disability as weakness, and my family sees it as an opportunity. Victoria is the one leading the motion." The truth hit Lily with sudden clarity. "That is why you proposed the marriage," she whispered. "You needed stability, a united public image, a partner who would not betray you." Adrian's jaw tightened. "My board demanded that I present a stable personal life. They claim a married chief executive officer inspires more confidence in investors. They wanted a marriage that would prove I am still capable of managing my own affairs." "And the wheelchair?" Lily asked gently. "Is it the whole truth?" Adrian's eyes darkened, and for the first time she saw something raw beneath his polished exterior. Not anger, not calculated coldness, fear. "I was injured 6 years ago," he said, his voice quieter. "The doctors told me I might regain movement. Perhaps not fully, but enough to stand, enough to walk eventually. But revealing that would place me at a disadvantage with the board. They watch every tremor, every shift in posture, every sign of progress or weakness. If they believe I am hiding anything, they will use it as leverage." "So you pretend the recovery is not happening," Lily said softly. "Yes," he answered, "because the moment they sense I am not entirely broken, they will question why I hid it, and that would destroy my authority." A long silence filled the study. Lily's mind swirled with the weight of his confession. The controlled leg movement at the courthouse, the way he maneuvered his wheelchair with practiced precision, the cold walls he built around himself. It all made sense now. "You are fighting your own family," she said. Adrian nodded. "They want the company. They always have. And they will stop at nothing to make me appear incompetent." Lily took a slow breath. "And where do I fit into this?" "You," Adrian said, "are the only part of my life they cannot predict." Lily stared at him, stunned by the honesty in his voice. "For the board to back down," Adrian continued, I must appear stable, composed, and supported. A marriage gives them one less angle of attack. But I underestimated something. What? Lily whispered. Adrian's eyes locked on hers with a weight that pulled the air from the room. You, he said quietly. I underestimated you. The tension between them shifted, no longer cold, no longer distant. There was recognition in his gaze, recognition of her strength, her dignity, and the truth she now carried. For the first time, Adrian Steele allowed himself to be seen, and the reveal changed everything she thought she knew about the man she had married. For 2 days after Adrian's confession, the atmosphere in the Steele estate shifted into something sharp and brittle. It was as if his admission had cracked open a carefully sealed vault, exposing truths neither of them were fully prepared to face. Lily carried his words with her everywhere she went. They echoed through the quiet hallways, through her suite, and through every passing moment she spent alone. You are the only part of my life they cannot predict. The weight of that statement felt heavier than the marriage contract itself. On the 3rd morning, Lily woke before dawn. She stepped onto the balcony outside her suite and let the cold air settle against her skin. Somewhere in the estate, a gardener was beginning early work, the faint hum of machinery drifting through the mist. The world was still, but inside her she felt a storm. The truth about Adrian's injury, his family's betrayal, the upcoming board vote, and the undeniable fact that she was now tangled in a battle far bigger than she had bargained for. She had married him out of necessity, but now she was involved because of something deeper, something that tugged at her conscience each time she looked at him. Later that morning, Karen appeared at her door again, her expression tense. Mrs. Steele, there is an urgent situation. You need to come downstairs. Lily followed her down the staircase, her heartbeat thudding with growing unease. When they reached the foyer, she saw Adrian positioned in his wheelchair, his posture stiff, his expression colder than she had ever seen it. Across from him stood Victoria, her arms folded, her lips curved into a triumphant smirk. You should have told her, Adrian, Victoria said, her voice dripping with poison. But then again, deception has always been your strongest talent. Adrian did not respond, but Lily saw the subtle tightening of his jaw. Victoria turned her gaze to Lily, her eyes bright with cruel satisfaction. Did you know, dear? The board will vote tomorrow. They believe Adrian is hiding far more than his physical condition. Rumors travel quickly when a powerful man rushes into a sudden marriage with a woman no one has ever heard of. Lily felt her stomach twist. What exactly are you implying? I am implying, Victoria said, stepping closer, that you are his latest cover-up, a distraction, a prop, a way for him to pretend he is still in control. But we both know that a man who cannot stand on his own 2 feet physically or professionally should not lead a multi-billion-dollar company. Adrian's voice cut through the tension. Leave. Victoria ignored him. I wonder, Lily, will you still stand beside him when the truth comes out? When the world sees that your husband has been lying to everyone? When the entire board turns on him? Lily searched Adrian's face, looking for guidance, for truth, for anything that could anchor her. But his expression had closed completely. Walls, armor, ice. He had retreated into the impenetrable version of himself she had first met. Victoria smiled, sensing the fracture forming. He will bring you down with him, you know. When the company collapses, when the press tears this arrangement apart, you will be the one left with nothing. Lily felt a sudden burn in her chest. She turned to Adrian. Is that true? Is this whole situation about to explode? You said you could handle it. You said you needed stability. You said, Adrian cut her off sharply. I said what was necessary. His tone snapped through her like a blade. What was necessary? She repeated, her voice quivering. To use me? To pull me into this war without warning? To hide the truth about your recovery? About your family? About everything? I did not have a choice, Adrian replied, his voice firm. You had a choice, Lily whispered. You simply did not trust me enough to tell me. Silence filled the foyer. Heavy. Damaging. Victoria's lips curled into a victorious smile. She stepped toward the door. Good luck tomorrow, dear, she said. You will need it. When she left, the estate felt colder than before. Lily looked at Adrian one last time. I stood by you, she said quietly, but you refused to let me in. Adrian did not answer, and for the first time since she signed the contract, Lily walked away not because the agreement demanded distance, but because her heart insisted on it. It was the breaking point, and nothing between them would be the same again. The night before the board vote stretched endlessly across the Steele estate. Lily remained in her suite with the door closed, but sleep never came. Her mind replayed every moment of the last few weeks, her agreement to the contract, the first time she stepped into the mansion, the hostile luncheon, Adrian's guarded confession, and Victoria's venomous words. Most of all, she replayed how Adrian had shut her out when she needed honesty most. By dawn, she knew what she had to do. The board vote was scheduled for 9 o'clock in the main conference hall of Steele Industries. Dozens of reporters gathered outside, sensing tension in the air. The elevator carried Lily to the top floor where the board members waited, their suits pressed, their expressions sharpened by ambition. Inside the room, the long table gleamed beneath bright lights. Victoria sat near the center, her confidence radiating like a weapon. Adrian arrived moments later, his posture rigid in his wheelchair. He looked powerful, but Lily saw the exhaustion behind his steady gaze. She slipped quietly into the room, taking a seat behind him. Victoria gave her a thin smile. I see the accessory has arrived. Lily did not respond. She kept her eyes forward. The meeting began with pointed speeches about company stability, leadership capability, and public image. Every sentence dripped with calculated hostility. Adrian sat still as accusations circled the room, claims that he was unfit, that his condition made him a liability, that his marriage was suspicious. When the board chair finally asked, "Does anyone wish to speak before we vote?" the room fell silent. Then Lily stood, every head turned. Even Adrian looked startled. She walked to the front of the room, her spine straight, her voice steady. I would like to speak. Victoria scoffed. On what basis? On the basis that you have spent weeks attacking a man who has led this company through every crisis it has ever faced, Lily said. A man who has given his entire life to ensuring your profits, your careers, and your comfort. Yet all of you have chosen to focus on his physical condition rather than his accomplishments. Murmurs rippled along the table. Lily continued, her words growing stronger. You claim he is hiding weaknesses, but the truth is that every one of you has mistaken his privacy for deception. You call his injury a limitation, but you have ignored the strength it took for him to rebuild his life after it. Victoria's expression tightened. And yes, Lily said, I saw the progress in his recovery. I saw him move. He is healing. That is not a weakness. That is evidence of a man who refuses to surrender. The room grew so quiet that Lily could hear her own heartbeat. She looked at Adrian, then really looked at him. You demanded stability from him, but stability means nothing if it is built on cruelty. The true liability in this company is not his condition. It is the people who are willing to exploit it. A silence heavier than stone settled over the board. The chair cleared his throat. Mrs. Steele, are you finished? Lily nodded. I am, but I hope you understand that what I have said today is not out of obligation. It is because I believe in the kind of leader who does not need to stand for what is right. Adrian's hands tightened on the armrests, his eyes fixed on her with a depth she had never seen. The board voted. One by one, the members raised their hands, not for removal, for him. When the final tally confirmed Adrian would remain as chief executive officer, Victoria stormed out of the room, her heels striking the floor with furious precision. Lily exhaled slowly, her entire body shaking. After the board members dispersed, Adrian turned his wheelchair toward her. You defended me, he said, his voice quiet but filled with something unmistakable gratitude, awe, and something deeper that neither of them could deny anymore. Lily stepped closer. I did not defend the contract. I defended the man beneath it. Adrian looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Then, Let me thank you properly." And for the first time since their marriage began, he reached for her hand not as part of an arrangement, but as a man choosing someone who had stood beside him when it mattered most. It was not the end of their agreement. It was the beginning of something real. The hours following the board vote felt strangely quiet, as if the entire building exhaled after holding its breath for weeks. The heavy tension that had clung to the air finally cracked, replaced by something softer, something almost unfamiliar hope. When Adrian and Lily stepped out of the conference hall, reporters surged forward, cameras flashing, microphones raised. But instead of retreating, Adrian faced them with a steadiness that surprised everyone, including Lily. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Steele, is the marriage genuine or part of a corporate strategy?" Adrian turned his head slightly toward Lily, his voice calm and unwavering. "This marriage began as an agreement," he said, "but today has proven something important. Commitment is not measured by where a relationship starts, but by the choices people make when everything is on the line." Lily felt her breath catch. He did not look at the cameras when he said it. He looked at her. Security escorted them to the private elevator, away from the crowd. When the doors closed, the noise faded until only the hum of the elevator remained. Adrian's hands rested lightly on the armrests of his wheelchair. Lily stood beside him, her pulse still racing from the intensity of the moment. "You did not have to speak to the press," she said softly. "I wanted to," Adrian replied. "I spent too long hiding behind carefully crafted statements. Today, I wanted the truth." When they reached the garage, the car was already waiting. The ride back to the estate was quiet, but not uncomfortable. The silence between them had changed. It was no longer the distance of strangers, but the peace that comes after surviving something together. Inside the mansion, the staff greeted them with cautious smiles, sensing the victory but uncertain of the personal outcome. Adrian paused in the foyer, turning his wheelchair to face Lily. "There is something else I must say," he told her. "Something I should have said long before all of this." Lily waited, her hands clasped together, her heart trembling. "I married you because I needed stability," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "But I remained distant because I feared what honesty would cost me. I feared losing control. I feared being seen as weak." He looked up at her, and for the first time, there was no mask, no calculation, no coldness, only truth. "But today, you stood for me in a way no one ever has. You defended me not out of obligation, but out of belief. And that is something I do not take lightly." Lily felt warmth rise in her chest, deeper than relief, deeper than gratitude. "Adrian," she whispered, "I did not do it because the contract required it. I did it because I saw the man you are behind everything else, and he deserves to be protected." A quiet moment passed between them, charged with meaning neither could fully express yet. Adrian extended his hand, not stiffly, not formally, but gently, as a man reaching for someone he respects. "Then let me ask you something real," he said. "Will you allow this marriage to become more than an agreement? Will you allow it to become a partnership? One built on trust, on truth, and on choice?" Lily placed her hand in his, feeling the sincerity in his grip, the warmth of his skin, the vulnerability he had kept hidden for so long. "Yes," she said softly. "If we build it honestly, then yes." Adrian nodded once, a slow, genuine movement filled with relief. "Then let us begin again, Lily." For the first time since the day she stepped into this world of wealth and shadows, she felt something settle inside her, a sense of belonging not granted by a contract, but earned through courage and truth. Their marriage had started as a lie, but now it had the chance to become everything neither of them had ever dared to hope for. Together, they moved forward, no longer bound by terms on paper, but by a promise shaped in honesty, dignity, and the first spark of something real.